Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to Parenting Collective, the space where overwhelmed meets supported, where sleepless nights meet real solutions, and where we remind each other that parenting isn't meant to be done alone, even if it sometimes feels that way. I'm your host, Donna Moala. I'm a certified secure sleep specialist, conscious parenting and relationship coach, proud mum of 3 teenage girls, married to my husband Dave, and your go-to girl for keeping it real when it comes to raising little and big humans without losing your mind in the process. Here at Parenting Collective, we get real, raw, and a little soulful. And yes, a little cheeky. Each week, I sit down with experts in their field, from sleep to child behaviour, relationships to self-care, all the stuff that actually matters when you're in the thick of it. No judgment, no perfect parent pressure, just honest chats, expert wisdom, and a whole lot of support. So grab that lukewarm coffee, take a deep breath, and let's figure this parenting gig out together. You're not alone, and you've just found your people. Hello, Anna. Welcome to this week's podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super exciting to talk about what you do and your passion. What I like everyone to do is introduce themselves and a little bit of I call it elevator pitch. So really, if someone said, "Hey, Anna, what do you do?" Can you explain to our listeners, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, essentially, I'm a career counsellor. I work with mid-career professionals and helping them.
What does that mean? They've been in work for a while, and literally what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit of a loose term, but most of my clients have been in work or been working in their professions for at least 10 years, some even 15, 20, 25 years. So they tend to be mainly sort of through their 40s, I would say on average. But I've had clients from 24 to into their 60s.
Yeah.
But I say essentially mid-career. So they've already had a career. They've generally been quite successful in their career. But they know that they want to do something different. They want to make a change, but they don't know what it is that they want to do instead. And obviously that's a big decision. So I help them to work through what's important to them, explore what their options are, and get them to a point where they can confidently make a decision about a new direction in their career.
I didn't even know anything like this existed.
A lot of people don't.
It's exciting because I was saying on the weekend, I love what I do. I love working with parents. I've got my fingers in all different types of pies, but I love it. But with your own business, it's not always constant income, and it drives me insane. And so on the weekend, I was like, oh, maybe if I could do something else. And it's like I was a personal assistant before 20 years ago. So it's like, it's interesting that we're having this conversation today. Look, I have these sort of thoughts, but I'm not going to do it. But I didn't know someone like you exists, because it's like,
yeah, look, most people think career counselors, work with high school students.
Yes, totally. That's where I thought.
And that's about it. And
yeah,
once you're out of the education system, you're on your own. You've got to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
But there are people like me around. It's not many of us.
Well, that's good though. It's good to
doing
have
my
found
best to educate people, to say,
Yeah.
hey, yes, look, people like me are around, and we can
Love
help.
it. Love it. And that's the thing, like this is why I love having my VIP guests, for this reason. So I think what I'd like to focus on, like we're talking about, is in that situation. For example, if you're a mother and there's so many things you need to think about, obviously going back to work. Do you still like your job? Work-life balance, does that even work out? I don't think it really does, to be honest. Income, all of that sort of stuff. So if you had a mother who didn't really like what she did before and was needing to go back to work or wanting to go back to work, what would she be looking at? Or, what do you do to support her through that thought process?
Yeah. So I essentially have a structured process that I take my clients through. And, there are sort of several steps to it. But in essence, it's starting with thinking about what you really want. So asking those questions, being reflective around, what you enjoy, what you're interested in, what environment you want to work in, what motivates you, what personality wise, what works for you and what doesn't, and really exploring all those different facets that impact our career satisfaction. And I've got a model that I use to do that, where we look at these different areas.
Yeah.
So understanding all of that first is really important before you go looking out there
Oh,
to
yes, I
trawling
know.
through the job boards and all of that to try and find the answers. You've got to get clear what's important to you. What's your checklist? What boxes are you trying to tick in the work that
Moving
you're
forward.
doing going forward? That's, you know, to make sure that's a fit for you.
Totally.
So coming up with that list first is super important. Then exploring the options to say, right, well, what are all the different types of work that could fit that? And that might be a job. It might be starting a business. It could be a combination of different things. Some people, I take a very holistic view. So some people look at, you know, volunteering options or board roles, or even study and different roles that they have in life that might make up kind of a package of things that tick all the boxes. But looking at all those different options and seeing what is most aligned with those priorities, and then doing the research, finding out the information that you need to know about those options, evaluating, comparing them, and doing all of that, like, and then getting to a point where you've got all the information, you can see everything laid out, you can, you know, easily compare the different pathways, and that's what the confidence to say, right, I can see this is the best option, that's what I want to do. And then we put that into a plan, say, right, okay, that's where you want to get to, what's the best pathway given everything else, absolutely in the context of your life.
Totally.
You know, what's the best way to get from where you are to where you want to go?
Oh, that's amazing. You're needed for teenagers, and I know I'm not having a go for any college, high school counselors at all, because everyone's doing the best they can. But having a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old, honestly, it's just the same. Teachers, they're all important. Go to uni, teachers, nursing, physio, OT, whatever, right? And I'm like, in a world that we live now, why is that just the pressure for that? Like, they need to understand what's out there, their personality, like, you know, really deep dive into that for younger people, mums and beyond, you know, like, it's such an important thing, but I feel people just get overwhelmed and get stuck. And then
there are so many challenges because there are so many options out there. There's many more options,
but no one knows where to start
in the past.
Totally.
Which makes it more difficult to navigate. And yes, look, you know, high school career guidance counsellors do a fabulous job, but they're generally horribly under-resourced, and there's just not really the support there, and they don't always have, you know, access to all the information and that. So yes, definitely, it's a challenge, and across the lifespan in different, and as we go through life, our needs change, and you know, there's a need to sort of come back and review and reflect and replan as we go through life as well. Most people have several careers these days, so
totally. I think we talk about this quite a lot too. Most people do, unless you're like my husband's a physio, and even physios have enough of it, I suppose, but it's like a lot of people change their jobs, but it comes down to money, doesn't it, really? And having to survive is like,
it's a big factor.
It's a massive. You've got mortgage. Like, if you're sort of single with no children, maybe you might be able to have that little bit risque. But you know, when you start having children, and you know, you've got to provide for these little humans, it's not so easy, particularly as a woman, to be a mother and make those decisions. You know, so it'd be amazing to have if they didn't like something, to have some time with you, to be able to, like you said, look they might need to restudy things like that, I suppose. Is that the things that you sort of think, like if they said, okay, I want to become a social worker, they've never done it before, your job would be, okay, you need to do this TAFE degree, you need to do this is, you know, is that the kind of things that you do?
Absolutely. We work through what that pathway would look like. So if, you know, as long as they're confident about that.
Totally.
My first goal is to get them confident about the decision they're making and the direction they're going in, because I work with a lot of people who, you know, already have a degree. Some have gone back and done a postgrad degree even, and invested quite a lot in their education, and getting these new qualifications. And sometimes they come out the other end having made quite a big investment and realize that,
nothing happened.
Not not really the best path. That's not what I should
No,
have done. And then what
'cause
do you
it's
do? You made
totally.
a huge investment. You can't keep doing that. So
No, totally.
getting clear and being super confident, like certain about, yep, this is the best path forward, is so important before embarking on study.
Oh,
And
no.
that's, I think, where a lot of the value of the work that I do is before you embark on that and invest money and time and energy, etc., and time away from your kids and family. Before you do that, be super sure that that is the best path.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we look at the different pathways and because there's also can be several different pathways to get to the same endpoint as well. And what we want and need changes over time. Some people really want to study and some don't, and that's all fine.
Oh, totally.
We take all
Time
that into
and
account.
money. Yeah, totally. And so, and that's the thing, isn't it? And look, I mean, I'm so glad. And the way that I found you, I talk about fusion all the time. Ash's probably never listened to a podcast, but I always talk about in Perth, being in a female, like-minded women, and I put out the notice to say, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? But these conversations are fantastic because I just didn't know someone like you existed. And I think a lot of mums out there and women particularly get really stuck, really stuck. And, yes, we live in this day and age, but being the age I'm at and children and watching people go through whatever they're going through, women still get very stuck in marriages and relationships because of money and jobs and the thought of being able to change a job or career for something you might like, it doesn't even come into their radar.
Yeah, the money, money is obviously a bit, I mean, we all need it.
We do.
Need to live, right? We need
I
to
do
pay the
love
bills
it.
and we
I
need
love
to,
money. Yeah.
we know, yeah, oh, cool. Yeah. And I've heard you say that before, which is fabulous. And I love that attitude to money is really positive. That's wonderful. It's necessary. But one of the myths, I think, in terms of, changing career, a lot of people assume that if you're going to make a change that you need to take a step back.
Yeah.
But, I've been working in my career for 15 years and I've got to this level and I'm earning good money. If I make a change, I have to go back to the beginning and have to take a pay cut. And it's not necessarily the case.
Ooh, that's
depending on what you want to do. Obviously, there are some careers that you might need to go and get a new degree. And, if you want to be a doctor or whatever,
totally.
obviously require qualifications. But for the vast majority of the people that I work with, it's more of a sideways step or a redirection where they can actually, keep their current salary. Sometimes even they increase their salary. When you think about getting into something that you love, that you're going to be passionate about, you're going to engage with more, you're going to go into it, you're going to progress.
Yeah.
Actually, in the long term, it's a really smart financial decision.
Oh,
if it's
totally.
something you can grow into. Now, obviously, it's a very individual thing, depending on what you decide you want to do. But when I work with people, we take all of that into account. If you've got a need for, this much money or whatever your baseline is that you need, then we work with that. And we say, right, okay, well, what are the options that make sense with that constraint? And, everything is the same with the study. If you don't want to go back and study, that's fine. Well, we look at the options that don't require that. But there's always many options. And what
you've opened a whole world. Yes, it's amazing.
What I provide is like a simple and structured way of working through it and making sure that you discover what all those options are, and you can make a really sound strategic decision.
Oh, I like that. Empowered, educated decisions, it's
Absolutely.
It's like a big scary world out there, isn't it? And like it's so crazy that we have so much information at our fingertips, but people are more lost than ever in so many areas. And I even just in the space of parenting and all of that stuff, it's not anyone's fault, but the overwhelm of information has made everyone not know what to do.
I've been thinking about exactly the same thing this morning around AI and all the potential opportunities with AI, and I really want to get into that topic, but it's everywhere at the moment. But
isn't it?
With that, even with social media, with all these new amazing things, it's a job in itself to can work through. Well, what does that mean for you? How do you want to use that? What decisions do you make? What's right for you? Given
and then when you're by yourself, then you're like, and you can get all that answered in AI. But when you're just solely by yourself, usually not confident enough to go, oh, well, I'm going to do that. And we can talk about AI a little bit because I do love it, but and it is the way that the world is changing. But I was talking to someone who's been talking about this for years before people were talking about AI, and he was saying things will fall apart a bit. He said, but on the other end, the people that have looked into it and understand it is people still want these conversations, someone helping them out, someone standing beside them or mentor, not standing, but, trying to help them through things. So AI is not going to be in the future just the only thing because humans still need human contact and human support.
Yeah, yeah. In
You know?
fact, it's increasing the value
Yes,
of that
it
human
is.
connection and human
It
support,
is.
in my
Yeah.
opinion. So,
Oh, it is
um,
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Totally. So, how long have you sort of been in this space of career counsellor or career
So
support?
around about 10 years, 11 years,
Yep.
something like that. I actually
Okay.
had a previous career myself. So I
Did you?
worked in mining as a geophysicist,
Oh, wow.
out in the bush trying to find
Very big change
mineral
then.
deposits
Yeah.
for big mining companies and trying to make them more money. Yeah, so I had this whole other career, which which I don't regret. I,
Yeah.
had a fantastic time, did lots of international travel, met some amazing people, still have some very close friends from
Hmm.
that previous life.
Yes.
But as interestingly enough, sort of, and one of the reasons why I thought it was really potentially relevant to your audience was my experience was that I was never 100% satisfied in that career, and I'd
Hmm.
been thinking for some years, 6, 7 years, something like that, that I kind of had this feeling that
Niggle.
I
Niggle.
wanted to do something different.
Hmm.
But it was when I had my first son that it kind of came to a head, and I thought,
Yes.
firstly, I took parental leave and took the opportunity to start doing some study while I was in the second half of that year that I had off. So I started studying psychology because that's something I'd got interested in.
Yeah.
And then when I went back to work 2 days a week, I was trying to continue the study. I was, and also looking after my son. I was like, no, I've got to make a
Can't do
decision
it.
here.
Yeah.
And that sort of having my son really shifted my kind of perception of
Yeah.
the value of my time. Like, my
I
time
know.
was so much more valuable, and so it
Totally.
became more important to me
Mhm.
to be enjoying my work and getting satisfaction.
Yeah.
Spending time away from
Oh,
him.
totally.
I wanted
Yeah.
to be doing something really
Yes.
more meaningful and worthwhile with
Yes.
my time. So
Yeah.
it was quite a big shift, and
Mm.
he really was the kind of catalyst for me doing something about it,
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
that change for
Which is
myself.
great. Yeah. Which
Mm.
often happens. I talk about this quite a lot. I made the decision to be a stay-at-home mum, which people wanted to do a little bit more, or I didn't have that career to be gagging to get back to. So I was okay to do that. But, there's a lot of negative things around that too, because I kind of lost myself and all of that. But
Mhm.
long story short, a lot of women also, if they've stayed at home and haven't done anything, find it really hard to get back into the workforce. Or, if they've got younger children and want to get back into the workforce, like you said, you want to be able to do something that you're enjoying when you're away from your children. So you can be a little bit more, you know, okay with leaving them, I suppose, because we need to have our own lives. There's no doubt about that. But that's great. So, and also having your own business too is not easy, but it definitely gives you flexibility as a parent, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't see myself as a natural entrepreneur in any way. I never had any great desire to have my own business, but the reason that I do it was because I actually went to a career counselor, and I went through a similar
Oh,
process
right.
myself when I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out what to do, and kind of ironically came out the other side of
Yeah.
that
Oh, I
saying,
want to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
but I think that with my own business, I had got so clear through that process. I was certain about what I wanted to do.
Mm,
I did work at UWA for a while with
okay.
uni students there, got some experience there. That was great.
Yeah.
I've also done some outplacement work, so supporting people who are impacted by redundancy,
Okay.
and I've done consulting work on the side as well. Um,
Hmm.
but I came through that process being super clear about what I wanted,
That's good.
and knowing that this kind of mid-career space was the thing that I
Yeah.
was
People
most
need.
passionate about.
Yeah.
So And, you know, the best way to do that is to do it through private practice. It gives me the flexibility to work around the family. I've got autonomy and really have control over who I work with, how I work, what I do, how I spend my time. So it works for me. It's not, you know, there are some challenges, obviously.
That's what I said. It's not everyone's cup of tea. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, I've been doing it for 10 years and I love it. I love it. I every spare minute I'm doing something with my business. But, you know, there's a whole lot of side is when you're putting a lot of money, not a lot of money, a lot of effort into it, and you might have a quiet month. You're like, why is that happening? You know? Oh, damn it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
and that's
the tough times. It's a little bit of a roller coaster always.
That's always, but the weighing it up of having your own business and your autonomy and stuff is like well worth it, especially having teenagers, even though they don't want to particularly be around me a lot, they just like me being around.
I can imagine.
How many kids have you got?
2. So my older one's 15, my younger one's 10. So
see, you're coming into it. And you think as they get older, because I'm a parenting coach as well, conscious parenting coach. So I do a whole lot of stuff, work up to 10, 12-year-old kids. But you think as they're getting older, they don't need you, but they do. But they don't need you the way that you would expect. And I was saying to someone a while back that, you know, they would come home from school and, you know, grunt and go to their rooms. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, because, you know, they're having the independence. And I remember asking them, you know, you come home, you know, you just need your own space. Are you okay if I'm not here? Like I might start doing clients after school. And they went, no, we like that you're here. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting, because it's like their safe space, isn't it? And they know I'm here if they need, but it doesn't mean that I'm actually having to sit down and do stuff with them. So it's important. It's important to be around if you can. You know,
and that's, you know, as you go through you know, through the different ages, you learn that. And I think everyone who has, actually I would say this to people quite often, that when you have kids, you never really imagine having a kid that's more like older than, I don't know,
baby.
5.
A baby.
Yeah, a baby. You don't think it's going to be a teenager at some point, and they do.
Yes, they do.
And but things change, and I think you know, with respect to career, like you do need to come back and review and say, right, well, what's working, what's not working. And I, you know, every so often I catch myself getting a bit frustrated or not quite being happy with what I'm doing, and I go back through my own process and go, right, okay, well, what is it that I need to try and change here, and what can I do about that?
Totally.
So nothing's ever perfect, but it's
ever
constant kind of review, tweaking,
always.
Let's try and find the best solution we can now. The options. So
totally. And really the work-life balance doesn't really exist, I don't think, but it doesn't mean that it's bad or good, but there's definitely a place of feeling okay, and sometimes it feels great and sometimes it's out of whack. And, you know, again, talking about teenagers, and I've shared my story quite a lot, you know, they've suffered with mental health and have needed me there. And if I was going to work, I would have had to quit my job, I think, you know, so like that flexibility of like, okay, they need me here, but then there's a whole year they don't need me, then it's, all of that. Well, how do people work with you? How do they find you? We will put everything in the show notes and stuff, but is it like a one-on-one? How does it work?
So I have a program. Essentially, I offer one thing. My program is called Define Your Future, and the process that I described earlier. So taking you through that process to get to the point where you're confident and you have a plan of your career going forward. So that's called Define Your Future. I have a couple of different options on how I work with people. I've got most of them involve one-to-one. So I've started doing in-person. Which is really interesting. I feel like there's a kind of rise in demand for in-person, greater connection. It really is, which is really exciting, because I've worked solely online for years. I do one-on-one online, and I also have a combination of sort of an online course format with videos, workbooks, but still with some one-to-one support as well. That's great. So there are different ways of working through the program, obviously different price points as well. But essentially one program. It's called Define Your Future.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and like I said, we'll put
Yeah.
everything in the show notes. And
Yeah.
you answer in DMs on your Instagram and stuff like that? Is that
My primary platform is LinkedIn. So
LinkedIn? Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn every day. Really good way
Okay.
to get in touch,
Yep.
but also easy to
Fantastic.
find via my website.
Amazing. Everything will be in the links. All right. Have a lovely day. Thanks for joining us.
Fantastic.
Bye.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much for having me, Donna.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave me a rating and review. I love reading all of your messages, so shoot me a DM over on Instagram. It is parentingcollective.au. I also offer a free 15-minute no obligation phone chat. If you'd like to book one, head over to my website www.parentingcollective.com.au and request one there. So try to remember to be kind to yourself and always know you're doing the best you can every day, no matter what your day is looking like. Until next time, much love.